What is going on, guys? Robbie here. Hope you all are doing well. I am doing fantastic. Just finished watching episode number 1 of The Last Dance. And like I said in the preview, what I'm trying to bring to this is the perspective of a non-basketball fan. I really didn't follow the Bulls in the 90s. Obviously, I was kind of still growing up, born in 90. Didn't really understand the game of basketball. I don't really watch that much basketball now, except for March Madness, except for the NBA Finals, some of the playoffs here and there, and if there's a basketball game on TV and it's a big one, most likely I will be watching it, but that's about as far as my basketball expertise goes. So I wanted to watch this series, The Last Dance on ESPN, just with a fresh kind of coating of paint, a fresh unbiased opinion. Do I think Michael Jordan's one of the best of all time? Of course I do. I think you're going to get very little people to look at this documentary and really go back and be like, okay, well, Michael Jordan isn't one of the best. Is he the best? I personally think so. Will my mind change going forward as I work my way through this 10-part documentary? You know what? I hope not. But you know what? You never know. Because that is what this is all about. This is The Last Dance review with Robbie Vogler. As all you know, you can go follow me over on Twitter at Robbie Vogler if you want to leave comments down in the below. My thoughts and your thoughts on this episode. You can subscribe, rate, and of course, you can review this YouTube channel as much as you want. We're going to break down and really get down into the basis of what this first episode was. And it really was a preview of what was to come. It really kind of got the mood set for this 10-part documentary. It was one of those things where they were finishing up. It's the Last Dance is really the story of the 97-98 Chicago Bulls team. They showed Michael Jordan's kind of progression as he worked his way through college. Had some interviews with Dean Smith, some of his college athletes, and then, of course, some of the teammates of Michael Jordan. You saw his mom on there, a very awesome video of Jordan, of Mama Jordan showing, reading a letter that Michael had sent her in college, and a very cute moment there. But when you look at the whole thing as a whole, I think it really set the tone of what their mission was. It started out with, there was some executive, very turbulation in the executive part after that 96-97 season. They didn't know if Phil Jackson was going to come back. Jerry Krause, the GM of the Bulls during that big stretch, wanted to say, hey, Phil Jackson, this is your last year. You are done. Michael Jordan said, you know what? I'm not playing for anybody else except for Phil Jackson. And that was probably the biggest moment. And we talk so much about the NBA now and the players and the impact that they have on the coaching decisions. And really, if Michael wouldn't have played, I can't imagine Phil Jackson staying around for that extra year. And so, of course, Jerry Krause came out and said, hey, Phil Jackson, you got this year, but that's it. Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson's gone after this year. Whatever you do, that's important. But it really kind of made that choice that Michael Jordan really was a deciding factor. And I can't imagine that if it was anybody else that they would have that much pull. I'm sure they wanted Michael Jordan to stick around. The quote that kind of solidified the whole episode and brought it all together was, you are entitled, after they won that 5th title, you are entitled to defend, or we are entitled to defend what we have until we lose it. And I think that's going to be kind of the thought and the perspective all season long, and what we're going to get through the 10 parts of this documentary. This was part 1, obviously, kind of seeing how they had started, seeing Jordan get drafted, seeing them going to France and him being a larger-than-life character, that preseason exhibition where it was just Michael Jordan. He had the rest of the team with him. But you look at that, and he didn't need Pippen there. He didn't need Rodman. Rodman, who was holding out. Pippen was, fighting injury. They didn't come on the trip with him. It was the all MJ show. And that's what I'm excited to see throughout this entire thing. Like, how much of a role did Pippen and Rodman play to the Bulls? How much of an impact did the other players have to the Bulls during that season, during that run? And it's going to be very interesting to see how they perceive and how Scottie Pippen and Rodman, and some of the reviews that I read before watching this, is Rodman doesn't come off as the best dude. Not Rodman, Pippen. Scottie Pippen doesn't come off in the best light. But, I think it's going to be very interesting to see my opinions on how they are working at it and how they are working through each episode and how they perceive Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Steve Kerr, Wellington, the guys that were on, or Wellington, the guys that were on that team from, during the 97-98, going for that last ride, that last dance, as Phil Jackson named it prior to the season. And that's what I'm going to be very curious to know, just how much and how big of an impact it is going to make. And what kind of, was it just Michael Jordan doing all that stuff? And so many, they showed in some clips of when Michael Jordan got drafted and saying, he's only 6'6", and no one that's 6'6" is going to be able to take the weight of a team and make it a one-man show or carry a team like we know Michael Jordan eventually did. And that's what I'm very curious to see as we go on to this entire thing. And one of the other big takeaways that I got going back was just Michael's time in college. The sound bits and the faces that they showed from his college days, and just how much he wanted to get better always at UNC. And we've heard about this. He's got the drive, the determination to be the best player that we've ever seen. And you know what? That showed in this video, in this episode. It really did. It showed that Michael Jordan did not want to quit. It showed that he wanted to do this 100%. He was made to do this. And that's what made me, the amount of respect that I had for Michael Jordan went up tremendously, because I think we can all relate to this in some way, shape, or form. We can all relate to we wanting to perfect our craft, us getting better at what we want to be better at. Michael Jordan was one of the top recruits coming out of high school, went to UNC and became one of the top players in college. But you know what? He didn't start that way. Yeah, it may have seemed that way, but he wasn't the best player when he first got there. And I think working continually to get better, always trying to stay late, being one of the first people there, one of the last to leave, always wanting to get better. And that was one of the things that stepped out to him, just his work ethic. And I'm sure we're going to see it more and more as this 10-part documentary series goes along. And really, what does that mean, in the big scheme of things? Did Michael Jordan really want to put all this on it? And did he want really one last ride? And what was the driving force to it? And I love the quote, and we talk about this so much in today's sports, about load management and time. You need your time off because you're going to get tired if you don't. And one of the biggest things that stood out to me was Michael Jordan didn't miss a game. And when you talk about today's NBA players or NFL players, NHL players, and maybe not as much NFL, but NBA players today, you talk about the Kawhi Leonards or the LeBron Jameses that have to sit out every once in a while because of quote-unquote load management. And you could say whatever you want, who's the better player. And maybe we're never going to know this until we go right in on LeBron, because obviously those are probably two of arguably the greatest basketball players of all time. But it makes you wonder, and it makes you think about it. Okay, well, if this is the case, then what is really happening? Is LeBron James, does he just want to rest? But Michael Jordan had to play the exact same amount of games and all that stuff. And you know what? He did so much. The competitive nature in Jordan was unlike anything I've ever seen. And I've watched a lot of sports documentaries. I think it's going to be very hard once we're going to conclude all this thing in 10 parts how things are going to relieve to, hey, what did Michael Jordan, like, what was his work ethic compared to everybody else during this time and of all time? And that's really where I'm going to leave it, guys. That was the first episode was a lot of background of where Jordan started, of how he was brought up, how he had just won 5 championships in a row. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they draw this out, how they make this unique, how they make it about the different players, not just Michael. I'm excited to hear some of the stories. I'm excited to get to know a little bit more about Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Steve Kerr, Phil Jackson, Jerry Krause. Like, these are the characters that I've never really dove deep into getting to figure out who they are. I know the next episode is a little bit about more Scottie. I know part 3 is about Rodman. And I'm excited, probably more excited about part number 3, because I really want to, get in the nitty gritty and in the mind of Dennis Rodman and what everybody expected out of him and what he did, because as everybody knows, Dennis Rodman is one of the most eccentric personalities, not only in sports, but in entertainment of all time. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they decide to portray these athletes on a consistent basis. That's going to do it for my part 1 review. I know I kind of just recapped it a little bit, but overall, I thought it was a good starting ground. I don't want these episodes to be too long, that some are going to be longer than others depending on the topic. And I'm getting used to this kind of looking at the camera, so bear with me. It will get better over the next 10 weeks. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out. I hope you guys are doing well. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave a like down on this video if you haven't done so already. We're going to be doing a Last Dance review, and this is episode number 1. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and spending the time with us. We're going to try to have some entertainment. Maybe we'll get some guests on here down the road, but if we don't, you know what? We are going to make sure that this is entertaining for you. We're going to recap it if you haven't seen it. If you have, watch along with us. Share your comments, your reviews down in the comments below, because I want to get your opinions on The Last Dance along with mine. If you liked episode 2, if you have something you want to say on episode 2 that I haven't brought up yet, or I'm not going to bring up until the next time I watch it, tweet at me, write a review, or comment down below about your favorite thing about episode 2. And you know what? Maybe we will feature it in our next episode. That's at Robbie Vogler over on Twitter. You can actually read. You can use the hashtag RVLastDance. And that's going to do it for today. Don't forget to go subscribe to this channel if you want to get updates all the time. Not sure how often I'm going to be doing it, I guess, as I go along and as I watch the Last Dance documentaries. That's when I'm going to be releasing these. Hopefully, I will watch it and then I will record one right away so it's fresh in my mind and I can give you the best opinions that I have. I'm excited to watch this with you. I'm excited to watch this as a non-basketball fan to know a little bit more about the Chicago Bulls in 97 and 98 and then everything that Michael Jordan had going on. Guys, thanks so much. Don't forget to subscribe down below. Drop a like if you liked what you heard. And you know what? We'll talk to you next time. This has been Robbie Vogler's Last Dance review, only on YouTube and Instagram and everywhere you watch. We'll talk to you guys later.